Last week at the E3 conference, while a male video game maker was demonstrating a game on stage with a female community member, he casually joked, "Here we go, just let it happen. It'll be over soon." Take a look.
Come on, you gotta practice before you get on stage in front of millions of people.
I can't even block correctly, and you're too fast.
There we go. Just let it happen, it'll be over soon.
You have a fight stick.
One more. Wow, you like those?
I don't like this.
Now, this rape-alluding banter received laughter from the crowd, but also intense criticism from the increasingly vocal female gamer community, who are not content to let sexist attitudes dominate. Now, joining me to discuss in our Google Hangout, we have Nami Scott, a blogger and gamer in Los Angeles, California. Cricket Crix Lee, CEO and host of Girl Gamer, also in LA. And Shannon Sun-Higginson, a documentary filmmaker in New York City. Ladies, thank you guys so much for joining me.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi. Hey, okay, so Shannon, let me start with you. All right, so this awkward rape-insinuating joke at the official Xbox One event. How bad was it? Like, what was the atmosphere at the E3? Was it really as bad as people were making it out to be?
Well, actually, you shouldn't be asking me this. Crix is the one who attended E3. But I think that these rape jokes are starting to be something that the media is increasingly talking about, because the more vocal women become in the gaming industry, the more this becomes sort of a mainstream issue, and people are starting to be aware of how big a problem rape jokes are in gaming.
Crix, okay, why didn't you feel that one then, as you were there? Was it really kind of a hotbed of rape jokes and anti-women kind of sentiment, or was this sort of like an isolated incident? I mean, what did you think?
Well, for me, it's not, I mean, yes, okay, like he shouldn't have said that, because I mean, I think what happens is there are things that you say when you're playing multiplayer with your friends in private that really shouldn't be said in public, but in the same time, you shouldn't say them anyway. But the fact of the matter is this was a high-profile press conference, and so it was seen by millions of people around the world. And to make that kind of a joke, you know, you're in a situation where you're not sure what to do. But what bothered me more about that is they clearly had a female staff member who maybe has played the game for 20 to 25 minutes come on stage and get totally dominated by somebody who obviously knew the game better. And then when the, you know, just let it happen. I mean, I've said that too, but that's, you know, wrong stage for that. And I know that sounds a little hypocritical, but, you know, that sounds like a, you know, that's a you problem if you think that.
Yeah. I mean, Nami, what do you think? Do you think that sounds a little bit hypocritical, or what's your take on what happened at E3?
Okay, well, it's Nami. Sorry.
Nami, sorry.
No, totally fine. Well, to be honest, I agree with Crix in that the kind of setup was not a good one. However, if you look at it, let's say it was a male and a male, or a female and a female, or if it was a female producer of the game and a male who had played it for 25 minutes, and he or she had said the same thing, nobody would have said anything.
Right.
When it comes, the fact of the matter is, if you look at the wording, and Crix, it's totally true when you're like gaming with friends or whatever. I mean, if you look at it that way, I've probably threatened to rape several of my male friends in the last like 2 decades, you know, like it just comes down to that.
That's interesting then. Okay, so this idea that, you know, maybe in this instance, people were seizing upon it and sort of calling out this guy and saying he was misogynistic. And, you know, I have to say that as somebody, you know, and I would do call myself a feminist, and I heard this, and I heard the interaction. And my first thought was, it didn't seem like, I mean, it didn't seem that bad. I don't know, maybe it was kind of being taken kind of out of context. But then, you know, stripping that down a little bit, do you have to say, well, is that because I've grown up in a culture where males have traditionally dominated in these kind of games? That sort of language is just really commonplace in the kind of like gaming world. I mean, you know, what do you think?
I mean, let's look at the situation. We're looking at a game that is basically creatures and or warriors or whatnot killing each other. There's stabbing, there's shooting, I mean, like, just the environment that we're in is an aggressive environment to begin with. So it's not odd, I suppose, to you know, to take that and say, okay, well, maybe that's why it's aggressive, you know, verbally aggressive. But I think at the end of the day, when you play with a friend, you shake hands, whoever lost, whatever, and you go like, well, that was a good game.
I mean, but the idea, I mean, I don't want to sort of veer off too much of this because, you know, it's not as if misogyny isn't kind of rife. I mean, I've got Anita Sarkeesian's blog here, and she actually made, she kind of called out, I guess, the Xbox One press conference at E3. And she said, thanks for revealing to us exactly 0 games featuring a female protagonist for the next generation. And this post just shows the litany, and I'm kind of gonna have to like go around it a little bit, but you know, here's just one. Hey there, can you just stop being retarded and bitchy? No? And that was just because she pointed out something. You know, Shannon, what do you think when you hear this sort of like this backlash against sort of a woman just calling out what she saw was, you know, sort of like factually, and she felt you know, bias against women. I mean, and gets all of this kind of commentary. Is this just what you have to take it if you are a female gamer? Like that's just part and parcel of being in the world.
Well, hopefully in the future it won't be, but I'm sort of a newcomer to this industry as well. I found out about sexism, you know, sort of rampant sexism, especially through anonymous forums about 1.5 years ago. And so I was approaching it sort of as an outsider, as a casual gamer, and I didn't realize that it was so prevalent. So I just think that the... I don't know. I mean, I certainly hope that people don't accept this as commonplace. And I think the increasing number of women is helping the cause. There are a few websites, Not in the Kitchen Anymore and Fat, Ugly, or Slutty, which actually just sort of showcase these horrendous things that happen. You know, the fact that it's all anonymous is a huge part of the problem as well. But I hope that this movie, websites like Girl Gamer, sort of help to highlight what is happening in the industry behind closed doors.
Yeah. You know, Crix, I want to bring you back in and something that Shannon just said about identity. And when I was sort of looking into this a little bit more, it seems that a lot of women sometimes hide their identity, or they will just kind of pick a maybe gender-neutral name when they're playing in some of these kind of like interactive forums. I mean, do you feel that there is still a place for that, or I mean, why do women sometimes feel that that's the way that they have to play?
No, and it's absolutely true. I mean, I've had instances where I had a staff member at a certain convention a couple of years ago. They wanted to see a very high-profile game, and the PR rep took one look at her and said, no, she's not in our demographic. I was turned away from a very high-profile shooter game last year, myself and another female colleague, because we, quote unquote, didn't fit their graphic either, but it was the way it was handled. It was like, we don't have any more time. And there was 30 minutes left on the show floor. And if we had been 2 guys, they would have jumped over backwards to help us.
So how do you respond in that situation? You probably feel something, but what do you actually say? Is there a recourse for you to address it and say, hang on a second, that's not fair and I want in?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, well, most people that know me know that I don't put up with that stuff ever. And so I just politely smiled and you know, walked away. But the very next day, I contacted the PR and said that was unacceptable. And we've run stories about this kind of stuff before. And, you know, talking about hiding your identity online, I don't. My Xbox handle, you know, you can tell it's a female. And that's got a bit of a double-edged sword to it, because when I'm playing multiplayer games like Call of Duty or Halo, they see the female name and it's automatically spawn kill and kill the chick. And I can't tell you the number of times I've had comments hurled at me. I've even been called the F.G a couple of times, you know. So if there's some women that do feel comfortable having a male avatar, but at the same time, there's games like WoW where guys will have full-blown female avatars, and they're totally fine with that. I think it's up to you and your comfort level and how much you'll put up with. In my case, I rarely ever play public multiplayer anymore unless it's to get the achievement. Otherwise, I play with my friends because I just don't want to put up with that crap.
Yeah,
I got better things to do.
I can see why you would. I can see why you'd think that. I mean, we've got a comment here, and guys, thank you so much for commenting. Please keep them coming as always. This is No Party System, who says gaming banter is brash, not politically correct, and for the most part very vulgar. If you can't take the heat, put down the controller. I am a woman, and that stuff is funny. So Shannon, is it all just funny? Like we should just kind of, you know, we should just suck it up. It's all just a bit of rape banter. Who cares?
Well, the thing is, when people make those jokes, I think a lot of the time they don't realize, like, particularly in a male-dominated group, you know, if you have a bunch of teenage boys and they're all playing with each other, I think they maybe don't realize the very heavy, serious implications of making a rape joke. And when a woman enters an environment where she's in the minority and she's getting attacked by a lot of men saying they're going to rape her and their threats to her physical person, that's very intimidating. So I think that, you know, to a certain point, trash talk obviously is part of so many, you know, different forms of entertainment and sports and different industries, and that's fine. But it's when it's specifically targeted towards a group. And, you know, Crix mentioned this as well, but like the gay community as well, like if you're receiving an attack that's, you know, personal, I think that is a lot more hurtful than just general trash talk to your friends.
And, you know, this isn't just, we should just say, it's not really just in the gaming world. It's also how women are portrayed in games. And there's this really helpful blog collection on whatculture.com, which is in our resource well, and you guys can check it out. Here I have Custer's Revenge. This was a 1982 Atari game, which, by the way, I had an Atari. I didn't have this specific game. I'm just going to read you a little snippet of what this was. This is about General Custer, who somehow escaped a just fate at the Battle of Little Bighorn, having apparently resigned his commission. Custer now wanders the Great Plains naked, spurred forward by his, quote, pixelated wang. So you have to guide him across so that he's able to rape a Native American tied to a pole on the other side.
Oh, God.
So this is like vintage sort of like depictions of women in games. But then we have something a little bit more modern. We have Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. And I guess this is sort of, this is the kind of one and the example that's like kind of wheeled out a lot. And here, what I find interesting is the fact that they talk about Lara Croft as representing this missed opportunity as a heroine. So, you know, would you say that that is, you know, that's perhaps the case, Crix? Like she was just Lara Croft was like a missed opportunity. There is still this sort of element of misogyny built within her. Or do women like playing as this kind of avatar? They enjoy what Lara represents in the fact that she's kind of feisty and sexy and all these things? Or really is it just that we're used to this by now?
Well, for the record, I just want to go back a little bit about the Custer's Revenge thing because it's pretty funny. In Red Dead Redemption, there's a secret achievement where you grab a whore from the local brothel and you tie her to the tracks and you watch her get run over. Now, I did it just because everybody else did it. But, I mean, yeah, we do see that a lot. Now, wait a second, just before you move on. So you said you did it because everyone else did it. Why did you do it? Like, why? I mean, I mostly did it for the achievement. And plus, out of just curiosity, I wasn't happy about it, but you know, there's certain secret achievements that, you know, you just want to get for bragging rights. But once I saw it done, I was like, you know, I didn't feel very good about it afterwards. And then with Lara Croft, yes, women do love playing as Lara Croft, and I think that Lara Croft is a prime example of an empowered woman. However, what I'm not happy about is the studio's constant tweaking of her body. She's either has small hips and giant breasts or small breasts and giant hips. And they keep trying to do this, like they keep trying to make her sexually, you know, aesthetically pleasing to the guys. But, you know, it's this last inception of Lara Croft was the most insulting because you had like kind of this weird origin story where it's like she was virtually attacked from all ends from all these guys before she became this strong woman. Why can't she just be a strong character to begin with? Why is it she has to go through all this adversity from men in order to be this person? Because this is the kind of character that guys point at and go, oh, total feminist. She must have done this or she must have done that. Why can't she just be badass for the sake of being badass? You know, you're never going to see Duke Nukem have a horror story where he was like prison raped or something like that, you know?
Right, or if you did, it would probably cause a little bit more of a splash at the E3 than the rape joke did. Nami, what do you think of all of this? Like, you know, is this just sort of par for the course? This idea of like Lara Croft's body is going to go through about 1 million inceptions, and we just have to deal with it. She's going to look like Sofia Vergara one hand and Kate Moss the next, and you know that's fine.
Well, my thought process behind this, I mean, it does bother me a bit when women characters are overly sexualized in games. It's true. I think, you know, we keep saying that female gamers are a minority. It's at 45% now. We have a huge chunk of the pie at this point. And I feel